Alright. 2 weeks! That's how long we've sat with the aftermath of last session. Your raid on a tavern, your discussion with Domino, your return to Creel, and your fight with Death's Hand. Team PC won, but the victory carried a great price. Now, in session 20, we'll be defining that price. We begin with your most prevalent desire, the one most mentioned at the end of last session. Putting Fargus to rest. The hills northeast of Newport are unsullied, allowing you to get back to nature without traveling too far. And I did have, like, a little bit of descriptive text to put you guys in a mood, but fuck it, Dark. Dark apparently has this shit under control, so this moment is what you make of it.
Very well. I guess I can look at my one. It was a cold and quiet morning outside the city of Newport, out in the northern hills away from all distractions. Neither the sound of people nor animals could be heard. Several figures, silhouettes, can be seen in the morning light, overcast by a cold rain. The figure stood atop a small hill, away from the roadside, with a large overgrown tree. Somber gazes upon an area of overturned dirt, which was crossed with fresh seeds. An engraved wooden cross had been implanted at the head of the mound, with a spear dug in just behind. The first figure within the silhouettes was Leon, who stood choosing to say nothing, just silently praying, one hand across a golden crossed rosary, the other on a dirty shovel. He'd exchange his white robes for black ones, if only for today. I didn't do the other PCs. That's their choice. How does Tempus look?
Tempus will actually be holding a very awkward bouquet of flowers that he kind of still has the dirt on them. He's not quite sure what the situation is or what's practical for druids. He doesn't really understand. So he's holding flowers in a very, very awkward way, in a kind of form of tribute, trying to think how best to hit it. He's not really been at very many funerals. He's feeling horribly awkward, but as much of a dick Fargus was, he was one of them. And Tempus is looking absolutely devastated. For the last 5 days, that's all Tempus has been, is just an utter shock. You know, they've came close, but, you know, this is the first time they've ever crossed that line. Tempus has actually been uncharacteristically quiet.
How's Dwohurim been?
Dwohurim's... well, it's been a few days, and he's been sort of grumpy the whole time, kind of complaining about this and that. And it doesn't stop him now as he looks at the gravesite, mumbling to himself that it was just like this droid too. Brave all of Dragon Hollow and to come back here to Newport and... well... he shakes his head slightly. He's brought with him a little bag of seeds that he intends to plant on the sort of top of the grave. But not before the others go. Now is not the time to show such things. They need him now. They need Dwohurim, a staunch, strong dwarf, holding back anything that would resemble tears as he looks at them, nodding, trying to give them a consoling look. Most of the times, most of his grumbling staying under his breath, although probably still slightly noticeable. He's putting up a brave face.
Thomas is there in his usual outfit, really, his battle clothing, but polished and clean to a shine as he stands, well, rigidly at attention, really. Definitely out of respect, even though Fargus was not really in the military, he still makes it seem like he was someone who not only was his friend, but also someone he worked with through all this time. He doesn't really say much. Occasionally it looks like he wants to say something, but stops himself, looking around, seeing the silent and empty hillside around him. Doesn't really want to sully it with awkward words and other things. Yes, he simply looks at the wooden gravestone, or rather the wooden cross, with a thoughtful gaze.
Dwohurim sort of reaches his arm up and pats Thomas sort of gently on the lower arm, which is the easiest for him to reach.
Thomas turns to Dwohurim, to all of you, really. Says, "It does feel like an occasion such as this requires words, doesn't it? But I am not finding the right ones."
It's hard to find words to adequately describe when one soul passes to the land of the gods.
I was never much of a speaker, and if you would rather I remain quiet. Yes. I understand that, but I do feel that this is one situation where my words won't get us into more trouble than we have already been in.
Vargas always knew how to get us in trouble.
The deaf speaker coughs up and says, "I'm sure your companion would just want you to be honest with yourselves. I'm sure he would want you to be however you were around him. If he didn't enjoy you, he wouldn't have stayed with you."
Nonsense. Kind words, but sometimes I always doubted if he really had to stay with us, or if it was something he wanted to do. But he looks down and says, "It's hard to doubt those things now. He gave everything for this cause. I don't know if he knew what would happen when it happened, but I think he did. I think he chose not to flee or run or stop fighting. Even as quick as it was, we've seen him before in pressed situations, getting out of them. But there was many a time when I did not know if it was... If he... When we first met and I saw what he was, I was furious, full of rage of what had happened before, and now I stand here fumbling for words to one whom I initially would only have regarded as, well, as not an enemy because it was recommended to me, because it was said that he was different. That, I suppose, he has proved many times. Not that he, of course, had to prove anything to me. If there's anything I can say that I will definitely always remember, it is that he was different. We all remember his eyes, his look, his way of acting, his way of speaking, often got us into trouble of different kinds, but I think more importantly is to remember what he did and why he did it. I can never be certain about these things now, but if we sometimes think of his memory and act in a kinder way or a better way, a way that promotes what he believed in, then perhaps it could be said that he, even is, if he's dead, can still act out through us. It is said that the Archmage does many great things. That is true, but many of the great things attributed to him are also done by his associates and allies. Why should it be any different? Fargus. So she did slightly and says, Sometimes I wonder if it would have been better if it had been me. So, and he seemed like he always had such drive, such mission, so much to accomplish. Well, I just have never really felt that I belonged anywhere. Do what we do because it's what I feel needs to be done, but just who am I to question gods and stacks and trees? Looks up at the others. I can see he's a little red around the eyes, sort of. His hood is pretty far down. His mouth sort of hidden behind all the tangled beard. As I'll miss him. It seems almost surreal. I've lost people before, but lost many people before. This, however, is more. I can't be angry. I've always been angry whenever this happened, wrathful, wishing for vengeance, but I have no one to be angry at. People who did it are dead themselves. No one grieves for them.
But it's not enough, is it?
Sure, just like.
Revenge doesn't satisfy anyone. The only thing that we can do, what we have to do here, is make sure that we follow this through.
If there's one thing we at least can make sure to do, it is to make sure that his spirit rests peacefully. He is the person I know who would the least like to stand up and raise as some sort of undead apparition. He looks over to the Death Speaker. I hope all the arrangements that need to be made has been made.
I don't think there will be a problem with him returning.
Good. Looking down. It's very cold out here today. Getting a runny nose. Just turns away a bit. Coughing slightly.
Vargas always had a way of cutting through everything, didn't he? He was never one for subtlety. He was never one that hid behind things. If he didn't like it, he said it straight to them. Remember the Pixies? There's so many times we would almost go out of trouble, and then he'd just say something, and we were right back into the thick of it.
Certainly his way, wasn't it?
Oh, and you remember in Dragonhall, he was trying to hide in those barrels.
Didn't turn out the best, did it?
Yet we still made it. I'm gonna miss him. The best rogue a druid could be. If only there was more people like him. Yeah, at least you knew where you stood with him.
It's a great loss to everyone that he's gone.
Yeah. Oh, Fargus, Till the next time I see you. And Tempus will just sort of scratch at his beard and just quietly stare off.
John Aratus, the guardsman, will slowly clank forward and he'll say, I'll never forget how he was one of the people who showed compassion. Were it not for him and you others, I would be trapped in a slave market still in Drakenhall. It was with his care and consideration that I have my freedom today, to do as I choose. He looks at the cross, he bows a bit respectfully at it, and then he trudges back to where he was standing.
Does anyone know a good place that serves druidic wine?
Middle of the city. If there was, he probably would have gone to it already. Nonetheless, all of this has happened so fast for us, yet we can't mourn on it forever. Though, that doesn't mean we should never forget this. Never forget the price he paid.
The clouds begin to fold away in the sky, a strong gust of wind blowing across the landscape. Off in the horizon, the warm, glowing orb of the sun softens the cold.
Tempus will tighten up his cloak against the sudden breeze of cold. Well, would Fargus really want us here mourning for him? For hours and hours on end?
To remember his legacy is fine, but I doubt he would want us to mourn here forever. Leon says, quick, rubbing his fingers across his cross for a moment. We must continue with everything. Make sure this was not for naught.
There is something I've been meaning to talk to you about, to all of you.
Mm-hmm.
I've just been thinking ever since what happened, really. I've just been telling myself that I simply need more time to process what happened, but that with time I'll just get over it. Fargus always seemed so stubborn, so invincible, but I realized something. It's not just me who needs the time, it's all of us. But it's time we don't have. Things are getting worse. I've this feeling, this very, very bad feeling, and I'm sure that at least some of you have the same. The Four and their plans are like a disease, spreading slowly, symptoms worsening and new ones appearing. Sure, we can fight the symptoms, but it won't stop what's killing us here. We need to find the center of it all. On the other hand, even a symptom, even a fever or something else can kill. I've never quite told you the full story of what happened between me and that priest, did I? Just blamed it all on alcohol, that I was drunk and felt like venting on him back then. That's not the entire story, however. It was an early afternoon. My shift had been over for a couple hours, I think, and I was just visiting a friend of mine at Tavern Keep in one of the outer districts. A bit later, this old man entered, ordered one strong drink after the other, even though it was still bright daylight outside. So I asked him what the occasion was. He told me that he was celebrating, that today was the end of his long wait. I asked what he had been waiting for, and his answer caught me off guard. He said that his daughter was ill, had been for months, a slow wasting disease. The doctors were clueless, the priests were powerless. Ever since he had heard of his daughter's disease, he had been avoiding her. He said that if she had fallen ill, then that it is simply part of the gods' plan. And since they didn't share it with him, who would he be to interfere? So he kept his distance and waited for months, not doing anything, not visiting, not helping, because he was too afraid to act against the wishes of his god, even though he didn't know what they were. I was too stunned to respond at that point. He continued saying that this was the only way, but today, one way or another, it would be over. The doctors had said that today was her last day, that after today he'd no longer have to worry about interfering with the inevitable. Mark my words, he had said, good or bad, disease or demons, it is all part of the great plan, and those who try to delay the inevitable, why, they might succeed for a time. But in the end, they all end up rotting in the abyss, achieving nothing. Probably had more to say, but he didn't get the chance. I knocked him out cold. A lot of friends had to pull a lot of strings that day. I think Vargas was the exact opposite of this man. He stood in the face of the inevitable, just as we have. And even though our contributions seem minimal, even if we are just people standing in front of some great plan enacted by dragons and worse, I will never forget that he stood with us. But then the Sahagwin, the walls failing, perhaps even the weather, they are all symptoms of this bigger thing. But I don't know what. I am not a subtle man. I can't fight invisible enemies. I can't plan contingencies for the unknowable. In this battlefield of shadows, I am powerless. But there's one thing I can do. Have you ever asked yourselves what your purpose in life is? It is a difficult question, impossible, really.
Very scary one.
For most, at least. But I don't think it is for me. Not since I learned what I am, not since I talked to Scarlet in that headquarters of theirs, not since she told me what I am, and I know that her words have been true for the most part. If the Sahagwin overrun Cape Thunder and the seawall, there will be very little left to save. Just a symptom, really, but a deadly one nonetheless. We all need time to deal with these things. And I think I can buy you the time you need to get behind all of this.
What are you leading this on to, Thomas?
I have not been a great help to all of you. I've been naive and helpless, really, in the battlefields we fought on Dragonhall, now Newport. All this politics, all this finding things. It is not something I feel I can contribute to enough. However, there's one thing I can do, one thing I think I was born to do, really. And that's to make sure that the world stands long enough for you to stop the fall. I think I will be leaving soon. Going east to Cape Thunder. They have trouble there, and warfare, fighting enemies that come and never cease coming. I think that would be something I'm good at.
Leon looks to you with sorrowed gaze. Do you want to talk first, Gryph?
So we're going to. Not only have we just buried a comrade, you're going to.
I don't think it's fair to compare the two, but I suppose it would be a goodbye, yes. And I'm not very good at those. Last time I left somewhere, I missed my best friend's wedding. They sent me dozens of letters to Newport. I did answer recently, but it's not the same.
No, personally I'm sad to hear that you'll be going, but let will they be at the Cape when you arrive? They're certainly in danger, and if anyone can find some way to slow down, it would certainly be you.
And I know that if anyone can stop the Four and their plans to end the age, to end every age, it would be you three.
There isn't any guarantee you'd come back from that
You're sure
promise.
about it?
Apologies, Grimith, the call quality was terrible. I didn't understand a word.
Yeah, call quality was dropping for me too. I was wondering whether it was Manaki hosting it or whether it's just my connection.
Same here.
It is Manaki hosting it then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had quite bad on mine.
Someone else can try if you want.
Everyone,
I've got it.
Get in the dark pool. The dark pool.